It's time now for A Bigger Picture with Dr. Dan from Sioux Falls Hypnosis. Hello, sir.
Hello.
What do you think of the new place here, huh?
This is awesome.
We've got
there's some high-tech stuff around here.
A different studio, and we've got like more room in this little studio than we had in our entire other office, so which is kind of cool. And then Heidi has her own room out there, like all to herself.
Right. It's very nice around here.
This is the furthest we've been apart in like 12 years. So every once in a while I hear her talking. I'm like, you talking to me? I didn't even know. You're way out in the other room out there. I said, we're going to have to put in an intercom system.
You may have to just so you can do. That would be awesome too. Yeah.
So one of the things we're going to talk about today is people maybe would refer to it as like the grieving process.
Oh, yeah.
But being able to, because this is not something that's easy for everybody. There's some people that kind of get hung up on right. something, and so I'll let you explain it a little better.
There are people that this whole idea of getting hung up in there. Grief is supposed to be something that you resolve.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be something you move through and come out the other end of.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All of our grief, no matter what the source. I mean, and this is the thing is there's this sort of idea out there now that people are kind of entitled to hang on to their grief for a long time. Mm. And one of the things that I would suggest to you is that, again, this idea that grief is something you're supposed to process, you're supposed to resolve. Because if you don't, if you're just carrying your grief around, if you're not resolving it, if you're not moving through it, what you are really is you're angry and resentful about what has happened to you, and you're simply acting out. Yeah. You're carrying this grief around because something bad happened to you that you didn't like.
Yeah.
And you are now entitled to be hurt. And this is interesting because a lot of people who are grieving, they believe that they're grieving for this other person, this other situation, whatever it is. But in reality, what they are is they're actually hurt and angry and resentful about what happened to them. And that's what they're carrying.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think it's just useful for people to think about. If you're struggling with grief, if you're not moving through it, if you're not resolving it, you need to stop and think about what you're actually carrying.
Yeah.
Because, again, this idea that these folks, by and large, are angry and resentful, and it's an acting out. It's a real sophisticated version of "see what you made me do."
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, and sometimes you got to be in a place where you want to get better,
right?
Because I know people who and grieving is not always just you lost somebody. It could be lost a job. Could be
something bad happens. A relationship
in a car accident,
ends.
and you banged up my fancy car, or whatever.
Yep.
So I hope people understand we're not just talking about the loss of a loved one. We're talking about grieving because it could be many, many, many
just
things.
Just a loss. You're grieving a loss of some kind.
And there are some people who I've witnessed where they, instead of moving on with their life and getting a different boyfriend or getting a different job or getting whatever happened that they lost, it's like they're holding on to this thing thinking that it's coming back. First of all, it's probably never coming back.
Or just holding on to whatever the feelings are around that. They're just holding on to that. And again, the reason that they're holding on to it is because they're not actually grieving anymore. They're angry about what happened to them. Yeah. Whether they're aware of it or not, they're angry about what happened to them. And that's their justification to be able to hold on to this forever and never have to resolve it or let it go. And what happens is this is what's keeping people stuck in many, many cases.
Yeah.
This fact that what you are is actually angry and resentful and hurt, and you're not actually grieving anymore.
Yeah.
And when you're not grieving, you're not going to resolve it. There's nothing to resolve anymore because that's not what the situation is.
And you're supposed to move through a process, but if you're hung up on one of the steps. So, again, Dr. Dan with Sioux Falls Hypnosis, is hypnosis something that people could utilize if they feel like maybe I'm stuck on one of these?
Right, because if you're hung up in a loss of some kind, relationship, work, some aspect of your life, something like that, what really needs to happen is that you have to let that go.
Yeah.
Because again, all losses are supposed to be resolved. If you're having trouble doing that, yes, hypnosis is a wonderful way to begin the process of forgiving.
Yeah.
And letting go and actually having the experiences you need to have so that you can come out the other end. So if you find yourself stuck, hypnosis is a wonderful place to go with for that.
And again, this is a process that you should continually move forward. So if you are, maybe this is something that you've been dealing with for quite a while now, and you're like, man, I just can't seem to get to that next step. I would encourage you to connect with Dr. Dan, and it's really simple to get a hold of you, but I'll let you share with people. How do they get you?
You can reach us on the net at SiouxFallsHypnosis.com. You can call us directly at 605-702-6691.
Very nice. And again, SiouxFallsHypnosis.com is his website. And if you're catching the tail end of this and you're like, what did I miss there? You can always find this radio program as a podcast as well. And you can find that at SiouxFallsPodcast.com.